play this back unless I figure something out. Just a nightmare. Every aspect of creating this podcast has been a nightmare. And I'd love to tell you why. And we'll get into it. But if I can't figure out how to edit, let me show you how frustrating this is. If I can't figure out how to edit, I had this thing where I was going to do this title, and I was going to say, that's gross. I can't do that right. Okay, I was going to say, there's my title, right? Lostlikemike, right? Because that's the kind of quality humor that I was going to bring to the podcast. And then when I looked at the first screen test to see what it looked like, the letters are backwards. Because the camera's flipped towards I could see it, because that's how savvy I am. Okay. But I'm going to figure out how to edit, because I'm going to cut this whole first part out. But anyway, hello, and and welcome to the episode 0 of the Lostlikemike podcast. My name is Mike Gonzalez, and I am the Lost Mike from the title. And this podcast is designed to help me work through some of my issues. The objective is to offer and find some solace, some hope by finding common situations, find similarities between the things I go through and the things that other people go through. Partially to get things off my chest, to get things out of my head. It's about sharing what works for me when coping and how I'm able to be functioning in some of the things that I contend with. But I found that as I shared some of my stories with other people, or some of the things that I go through, there was many instances where they were dealing with similar things, or found comfort in knowing that they weren't the only ones dealing with whatever they were dealing with. And I've never gone to therapy. I've never been able to work that out with my schedule and my lifestyle. I've never been able to do it. So it's just something that I wanted to do. I've been wanting to do for a very long time. And there's something that happens when you don't talk with other people. You don't socialize, or don't really share with other people for a long period of time. And that's the idea that your mind starts getting cluttered, or normally things that you're able to articulate, or able to get out, seem jumbled and foggy. And I know in this post-COVID world, everybody's a little bit foggy. I don't quite know if that's something that's particular to what we're all going through or not, but just a lot of clutter going on up there. And also when you speak on a regular basis, you are able to articulate what you think and feel in a way that when you just are in your mind all the time and not, getting it out, you finally find an opportunity to speak to another human being, and it sounds jumbled and all over the place, which I'm anticipating this to be all over the place. I feel like that's to be expected. It's going to be a train wreck, but people like watching train wrecks, right? They rubberneck on accidents on the highway, and so there might be something appealing about watching me flail for 55 minutes or however long this lasts. So, you know what the problem is with the premise of this podcast is that every day I'm dealing with the very topics that I want to be talking about. I wake up in the morning. I feel like there's elements of a manic nature to my character, to my being. I'm in this constant state of anxiety and existential angst and depression at times. And somebody I once saw was listening to a podcast seminar kind of discussion, and they were saying that you just when you start the podcast or when you hit record, you got to bring that energy, or you got to bring that, and I don't know that's realistic to have a podcast about struggling with being a functioning person, with a person that suffers from depression or severe anxiety, but is able to function. But sometimes I get up and I'm like 50 million things that I want to do and I'm able to do, and I'm just all cylinders firing and just a powerhouse ready to go, and I get a lot done. And a lot of times, it takes everything I have to get up and make the bed, or going to work. And some of the mundane things you know how to do without a lot of effort, in terms of you can compartmentalize and get to whatever you have to do. But it's been part of the struggle. And I'm not oblivious to the irony of having a podcast where the very issues that I want to talk about are the hurdles and demons that I have to overcome in order to even record it in the first place. And when I say that there are hurdles, there are. My over 2 years ago, I had sat down with my brother, and he was in a bad way, health-wise, and I wasn't 100% either. This was pre-pandemic. We were leveling with each other, and I had always tried to motivate him to make healthier choices and to pivot in towards a direction of a healthier lifestyle. And I felt that if I put myself into that, if we both teamed up and held each other accountable and start a podcast where we would talk to each other about how hard it was to do what we wanted to do, and tips and tricks, and open the forum to others and share our story and our progress. And it would be something that would help each other, stay on track and do what we had to do. And he was on board. And the thing of it is that he's the savvy one. He was a smart one when it came to media, and he knows about computers, and he knows about lighting, and he knew about recording equipment and microphones and all the minutia that goes into creating a podcast. And also, just a side note, I've my son and young people, they'll knock this stuff out, just talking into their phone and creating something and posting it, and it's up that same day, and maybe it's just a generational thing, but I relied a lot on him, my brother, to do the show. It was his, it was my idea, so to speak, but it was his, it was his capabilities that were going to make it happen. All right. And then the next thing you know, the pandemic hits, and we're all quarantining, and we're still talking on the phone. His health is not getting any better, but he's talking to me about on his own, trying to take steps to diet and to try to be active. At that point, it was difficult for him to be mobile and to do things. His health was in a bad place, and my constant promise was, just as soon as we can get out of quarantine, with no concept of the length of time or, what we were about to be in store for, the idea was, I would tell him, I'm gonna get started with you. We're gonna get going, and one day he said, well, I'm gonna go to the hospital. I'm gonna go to the doctor, because I can't wait for an appointment. Nobody's seeing anybody. I'm gonna go in, and I have to address these medical issues. And I think actually at the time of recording this podcast, it's been approximately 2 years since that time when he went into the hospital, and he took a turn almost overnight, and he passed away. And there's a lot of some of my demons, but absolutely a lot of regret, a lot of, in hindsight, where you feel that there must have been more I could have done, or there must have been something I could have said or done to motivate him, to show him that I was serious, a chance I could have taken. It's not productive to do that, to go down that rabbit hole, but I'm haunted. I'm haunted by that, by the fact that I just feel like there was more that I could have done. But but also, so in large part, I'm stumbling through this podcast, and I have absolutely no fear of making a fool of myself or showing my ignorance in all of these different things that I'm doing, because I have to honor what he and I wanted to do what we were going to do, and and honor him in some way by completing the task that we had set aside. And even in his death, he left, some equipment, for me, almost like wanting me to do it, to keep going. But the problem was that as I said, he's the smart one when it came to all of these things. I thought, well, absolutely, we'll plug this and we'll plug that and we'll make it happen. And how hard can it be? We'll YouTube it and we'll figure out what to do. And at every turn, it's been such a steep learning curve and falling right back to the beginning. And at every hurdle, the voice in the back of my mind saying, just don't bother, or you should stop, or you should, you don't have anything to say, you don't have anything to contribute. There's a bajillion podcasts in the world. Yeah, I hate it when people say that. I'm sure there's a million new podcasts every day. I'm certain of it. But yeah, they used to say that there's a million musicians out there, recording artists, bands. There's a million artists wanting to paint pictures and to share their art with the world. Who cares? There's a million TikTokers or people hosting Twitch show, whatever they call them. Yeah, there's a bunch of people doing a lot of things. Yeah, but so what? That's a fact. What's one more? There's a large part of me that doesn't even know if I'm going to put this out. I mean, I'll publish it, for all 0 of my viewers. Who cares? It may just be a figment of my imagination that anybody will hear this or see this and find any sort of commonality between the struggles they go through and the ones that I go through. For all I know, they'll watch it and say, this guy's a weird nut, and click it off. Like I don't have anything, to learn from or to. There's no reason to watch the rest of this. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Who cares if the energy's all the way up or if it sounds like I'm down even right now? The point is if the point really is to get it off my chest, if the point really is to share with everybody, then I'm going to. But at every turn, it was just finding out something else that I didn't know about. Software for the recording, or how a lot of equipment is useless and cheap and breaks, and these the plugs don't work. Yeah, I try to set a timer on my computer, and it went to a screensaver and stopped keeping time. It's just an example. It's so stupid. 2 years later. Yeah. But that's the nature of it. There's so many aspects to it that, that if you want to do something that's not just, if you want to honor somebody that was really good at all this kind of stuff, he knew about filming and editing and recording and getting good levels and lighting, and I probably said lighting like 3 times already. He was all that. So just to say, I also have like recorded intro music and outro music. I probably will have to wait till episode 3 or 4 before I can figure out how to add all that. Because part of the game is that I'm setting a time limit at this point. 2 years deep and a bajillion excuses later, I can't wait anymore. So, which can be a cool thing, because I'm going to probably put something out that's really ridiculous. But I'm going to do it no matter what. A line has been drawn in the sand. And either have to, do it or don't, right? So, and you should never watch like other videos when you're wanting to do something, because, and I'm not, no judgment on other people, right? I mean, but I get to thinking, am I going to look like that, right? People are going to troll me, and I welcome it. I don't care. They're going to be, brutal. But this is episode 0. I was watching some tutorial about how to post these things, and they were talking about needing to have a test trial video, an episode 0 that you upload to different directories and to get you listed on a multitude of other ones, like get on the Apple Podcasts and the Stitcher and all that stuff. You have to get onto one, and then when you have episode 1, it'll link up to everything and open up in these feeds. Super interesting stuff. I know. It's just part of me trying to figure out what the hell I'm doing. And I've thought about, bringing somebody on, an engineer or a producer, a friend, somebody to come help me out. I've thought about having a co-host, somebody to bounce ideas off of. And it is so hard to even get time to sit down and talk into a microphone, that the prospect of setting something up and getting past my excuses and then dealing with another person's excuses, I'm exhausted just thinking about it. And so at the very least, episode 0 is meant to allow me to get used to talking, to seeing where I'm supposed to look on this camera, where I'm not looking, like something's wrong with my eyeballs. And also to kind of loosen up and figure out what this all is going to be about. And I hate first episodes. I hate them. I hate pilots to TV shows. I mean, half the time they replace actors in the pilots, and you're gonna have to have a grain of suspended disbelief, because in the second episode, it's played by a different actor, and always the pilot, it has like shitty jokes, and they're really rough, and you have to decide whether you want to have faith in the show that, is this even worth watching on a bingeable basis, or a second episode. I mean, I also hate the last episodes too. I'd rather just pretend like the show goes on forever and not have to worry about, or not have to think about the crappy way they decided to end off Dexter, or like, although there's been a couple shows where I thought, oh, that's cool. Like there was a show called House, and they rode away on motorcycles. I don't know why I like that, I don't even like motorcycles. Whatever. Okay, there goes a train wreck. Conversely, I like blank pages of paper or canvases, right? I like that for like a few seconds. I love the idea of a piece of paper, or like, you know, like Michelangelo seeing an angel in the marble and wanting to get it out. But then potential turns into endless possibilities, turns into an inability to start. Sometimes I'll just scribble something on the paper just to, to shake it up. But then, if I don't like it, then I'll have to throw that paper away and start with another one. It's just being honest. So anyway, I'll tell stories, or I'll tell you things that are going on in my life, or things that I've been going through. Most recently, I was dealing with losing my job after a very long time of working. A very, very long time of being employed in the same place and kind of being real comfortable with, in this real deep sense of homeostasis, where I think it equally held me back as it did sustain my lifestyle. Like, there's a danger to having the security of a job. You can wake up and years have passed you by because you're checking all the boxes. But through a series of strange and unfortunate events, it was time for me to move on from that place. I have no ill feelings towards the company, the people. I love the people. But the signs were overwhelming, and it was time to go. All right. That's the part that I can't really get into or talk about, because it's really no sense in it. There's no story there. But I lost the job at the end of March. And there's things that I'll tell you about later. But I had recently, I was a COVID graduate. I went back to college and got a degree, but, that's another story for another day. But I had a little sense of confidence, all right? I beefed up my resume, and I started with a wish list of places that I thought I would like to apply for, but I had always wanted to be a part of, just never really committed to, industries that I wanted to test the waters, see if I can get into a dream job scenario. And I even spread my net pretty wide. I said that I'll throw in some B-listers for funsies, some government jobs for the possible benefits. Let's go. We'll just have some fun. I can't tell you how many jobs I applied for that I got rejected very quickly. So strange. I mean, they were talking about coming out of this pandemic where it was so anybody who wanted to work and was willing to get out there and get a job could get a job. And here I was, this new graduate, with years of experience and all of the in customer service and management and all this kind of feathers in my cap. I was like, shit, they're gonna be fighting for me. No, dude. Rejection after rejection. And I've been married for a long time. So, I mean, there's a joke somewhere in there about knowing my share of rejection, but that's not where I was going with it. I'm saying, I don't put myself out there like that. I had a job. I wasn't looking for a job. Hell, I mean, I had just recently gotten a lateral promotion at the job where I was at. So in my mind, I'm the top of my game. I'm having fun. I'm getting things done. I'm ready for a new job. And all of a sudden it was compounded by the fact that I was no longer with that company. Because secretly you think that a company's going to fight for you, but there I was. And so my first batch of jobs, I would say 80% straight up rejections. Sorry, we are going with different applicants at this time. Great, qualifications, but we're going with another direction. Fine. And then I got one or two interviews. So I thought, well, it must be some sort of in-company thing where you had to be working for the company. That's why. It's not me. It's that they already have candidates within their organization that they probably are moving up, and that's why. Okay, cool. I've got an interview now. It's going to be great. I had a couple of those. I would go to the interviews. One of them I didn't make it past the first round. One of them, I swear, it was a bit of ageism. Very eloquently interjected, where they asked about, with all that experience, could I see myself being managed by younger people? It was gross, but I wasn't really, overwhelmingly down for that job anyway. But the greater point is that I was rejected a ton, and I got really low. My weight ballooned up. I got to the heaviest point that I had been in my life. I don't believe in before and after. I mean, it's not like Santa Claus. I'm not saying that I don't believe in it. I'm just saying I am who I am today. I'd like to be thinner. That's my ultimate goal. We'll get into health in a minute, but I was who I was then. So it's not like before I was one thing and you want to see some sort of after results. I had gotten up to 301 pounds. I'm 6'1" ish, maybe, 6'1" and 301 pounds, and I felt old and unwanted and gross. And then April, May, and then in middle of May, a great company contacted me and sought me out and asked me to jump through some hoops to be considered. But it was clear that they saw something in my resume that they were interested in, and they pursued me. It felt really good. And now I'm wicked happy at this new job. It's a great company. They're super attentive to their people, and I have no complaints. I mean, I'm not divulging all the personal information and all that kind of stuff. I don't think it's pertinent to this story right now, but needless to say, it was um, it was a struggle, and it really was heavy. And also at the same time, there was, you know, my focus in college was entrepreneurship. So there's a lot of entrepreneurial endeavors that I've been trying to start up and to get going, and there's a lot of challenges and learning new things that you don't learn in the classroom, that you learn out in the field, trying to get people to buy into your dream, your whatever product or ideas that you have. So um, when you're dealing with those sort of mental issues or the struggles, it's difficult to believe in yourself, and it takes a lot of belief in yourself to achieve those things. And it's one of those things where I think if you're listening to this and you want to do something and you feel like you're your own worst enemy, there's no two ways about it. You have to make a list of what you want to do and do those things, especially when you don't want to do them. Not only do them, but in the time where you say, you know what, it's not the right time. There's never a good time. I've set every sort of goal for recording this podcast. My birthday's coming up in this month, and I could tell you, I've set goals to say I want an episode before my birthday. I want an episode every month, starting January of the new year. I'll do an episode. I'll set all the equipment up, and then that next Monday I'll do it. Or I'm going to set it to be every Thursday I'll record an episode. Or on the first of the month I'll start working out. Or after I have one last cheeseburger night, I'll start eating right. I've set every sort of time frame goal of the perfect time I'll start, and it's never going to happen. Even tonight, I've got things that I'm supposed to do. I have a sleep study that I'm supposed to start, right? Any minute after I finish this thing. And that speaks to the health things that we're going to get into. But I'm working on a children's book that I wrote. I'm illustrating it now. It's another project we can get into, and we'll touch base every now and then, doing some checkups on all these different things going on. Because I think it's important, if I say one day that I am a couple of pictures away from finishing illustrations, that next week or next 2 weeks out later, 2 episodes later, and I haven't done it, then I think that we should talk about it and figure out what's going on, So I looked for a long time before the pandemic for a doctor, a primary physician. And, gotta love the medical industry, in America. I'm not getting political, but let me tell you a story. So, on the one hand, you're going to try to find a doctor that's covered with your insurance. And then you have to go for a first time to go visit with them. Okay. You make the appointment, you pay the deductible, whatever. And you go to this person and you don't get to see the doctor. You see a physician's assistant. And then you point at one thing. You say, well, my arm hurts really bad, but my belly button. And then, no, can't talk about your belly button. We're going to have another visit because your belly button is way too far away from your arm for me to look at both things at once. So that's a big turnoff. We're going somewhere else. And there's several of those and several copays later. I even had a doctor who I had already leveled with and said that I was struggling with depression and being overweight and feeling like I was just in this horrible place. Proceed to give me a lecture about the importance of coming for a follow-up visit and paying an additional copay just so that he could tell me that my test was negative. And my only statement that I made that induced this lecture was, couldn't you told me that on the phone? And he proceeded to berate me and to, and I'm thinking, what a horrible human being to kick somebody when they're obviously down. They obviously are not in the mental state to come back at you. Because they're, like I said, I'm pretty manic. So on other days, I mean, I can't tell you the number of nights that I lay in bed going, that son of a bitch, what a piece of shit. You know what I mean? Like, ready to go off on this guy. Anyway, it's unimportant. But the struggle is for real, trying to get yourself taken care of. And then when the pandemic hit, I had a buddy, try to get me in touch with a virtual doctor. And again, the doctor couldn't address any other issue than what we were on the phone to talk about, on the Zoom call to talk about, and then said something about, never had heard of this particular pain in my foot. And I'm like, you're an old doctor, clearly. I'm looking at you. You're old and have been doing this for a long time. And you've never heard of pain in a foot? It was very, very disheartening, to say the least. But where in my current job, I'm very fortunate to have been directed to a group of physicians that are just fantastic. But unfortunately, there's some things going on that in physically that I'm in this state of unknowing right now, because I have a full doctor's visit coming up, and then a specialty visit with a cardiologist, and some different things are going on where I'm waiting on certain permissions to be able to exercise. And I hear this echoing voice in my mind of my brother saying, if I could just have one more chance, I'll start. Because that's what's going on in my mind right now. If I could just have one more chance, I'm going to train hard and I'm going to exercise and not stop. Because right now all I can do is walk. And it's scary, it's weird. You don't get to just blow stuff off like you used to. A lot of people want to wait, like this perfect time that we talk about. It's real. Waiting. This procrastination. I think that there's a a realization that happens once you start doing something, that you're going to have to continue to do that. I remember going to the gym. I was going pretty regularly for a while there. And every time that I would go to the gym, I saw this older guy. I mean, not hella older than me, but he was a little older. And he would always be doing the exact same yoga stretch routine, getting ready to do his, exercises. And side note, if you want to do a drinking game, counting the times that I say, on this first episode, you're welcome to do it. Because I hear it, and now that I've said it, you'll hear it. But it's partially coming because I'm not used to doing this, and I'll try to do better in the future. But I digress. I'm watching this man, and he's doing the same stretches over and over, the same yoga poses. And I remember thinking, and 100% thinking the wrong way, but thinking, geez, this guy's been doing this for probably years, doing these exact same stretches every day, these same exact movements every day. But what I wasn't thinking, and what I should have been thinking, was this dude's older, and look at him move. He's able to have all these different levels of function that it's pretty great to be able to do. But that would haunt me when I was initially doing my workouts. Back in the day, I would think, man, I'm going to be doing these workouts for the rest of my life. And you'll hear different personal trainers and nutritionalists. Is that the word? I don't know. Right. Talk about do something that you are comfortable doing for the rest of your life. Lifestyle changes. And ultimately, I think that's what we all have to do, is find ways to suck it up and do the things that we don't want to do to add to the quality of our life. Because that's what people don't see happening. There's a switch that gets turned. And the only thing we can do, because you can't stop the switch, but you can stifle its effects. And I'm a firm believer that our bodies are these use it or lose it machines that are just waiting. They're chomping at the bit to say, oh, cool, so you're retiring? You don't need your feet anymore? All right, cool. We'll break down then. Oh, you don't need to stand up straight? Cool, we're going to break your back. You know what I mean? Don't take my word for it, but take my word for it. Side note, I want to get down to, for my height and the structure of my body, 215, 210 would be pretty ideal. There's guys that are 6'1" that are $190, and Lord help me, I don't know what that looks like with the way that I'm built. I don't think it's possible. I'm just not built that way. I'm not saying that there'll always be a little bit of fat. I'm not saying there won't always be a little bit of fat, but I am saying that I've done the Jackie Gleason yo-yo weight levels, and so I know that around 220, my body's saying there's not a whole lot more that you're going to lose and still have muscle definition and all this kind of stuff. Bottom line is, since the point where I hit my heaviest of 301, I am now sitting right around 275. And I'm just being honest with you. Just putting it out there. So I'd like to lose 60 pounds. Give or take 60, 65 pounds. And that would be something else that I'd like to talk about on the show. I've joined a health contest or a program. We'll see how that goes. But we'll touch base about it, and I'll talk more about it. But it basically asks for accountability of what you eat and how active you are. And as I said, the second the doctor says I can get down, I'm going to get down. I'd like to start doing 5Ks. I used to be in cross country. I used to like doing that stuff. My knees are shit, but I think I can still get down with a little movement if my heart will let me. And I think my heart will let me if I lose like the stupid weight. It's a perpetual cycle of just, a sedentary life, depression, weight gain. It's all connected, man. It's all connected, and you have to want to get up and move and do things, and because your mind and your body, your spirit, everything, it's all connected. And when you neglect one or the other, it just starts a spiral of needing to eat, to feel better, and then you eat more because you're feeling worse about yourself and you're eating your feelings. I mean, I eat my feelings all the time. Used to. Sometimes I struggle with even this sort of, what does it all matter? There's definitely that idea that, I remember listening to this Billie Eilish interview, and she says that it makes her happy to think that in 100 years, nobody will remember anything she says or does. I think she was trying to say that it gives her a freedom to say and do whatever she wants, because in 100 years, nobody will care or it won't matter. And that should make you want to get out and do whatever you want to do. But at the same time, you have to have a plan in place to sort of talk yourself down from the opposite side of that coin, which is, if nothing matters, then why do anything, right? I think my answer to that currently is that the things that make life matter is the art, it's the music, it's expression. If you don't know happiness, if you don't know the smile, I mean, find comedians that make you laugh. Force yourself to watch good comedy or a good movie or a guilty pleasure. A family member, if you have kids, watch them laugh, smile. We'll talk about spirituality and stuff like that in the future, but people often ask about what somebody's belief systems are. But at the root of it all, there's a part of me that believes that God is in the bend of the note, right? If you're a musician, or if you have an appreciation for music, there's a there's an intangible feeling that you get when you hear a bend in blues or and in jazz, or and it takes you somewhere or makes you feel something. I guess that's the point, because that's what makes us us. It's what makes us a signature of consciousness. And side note, I just reached up because my phone said that it was low on battery, and I didn't know for a split second if it stopped. Yeah, I'm filming my phone. But the point is, even now, I was thinking, how long had it been like that? And me just talking to myself. The universe is super funny. It's always making jokes with me. It never lets me take myself too seriously. What's the point? There's a lot I want to talk about. Obviously, there's a bajillion topics. That should be a second drinking game, is every time I say bajillions. Only because it's a pet peeve of mine to say bajillions, and I don't know why I'm saying it. But there are a lot of topics that I'd like to talk about. I have a cork board where I put them on. I post them up. But today I had decent energy. It's been fluctuating, but I'm sure on the next episode, I'll be just as all over the place and incoherent and not making any sense. But maybe there's little nuggets of sense. So I'm going to end off, or I'm going to finish up talking about if you've ever performed on stage or done something, played a sport in front of a bunch of people, created something and displayed it for the world to see. Maybe you can relate to this next idea. Sometimes I wish I could show people how hard it is to do anything. Everything's difficult. Everything is difficult. I mean, there's people that are savants. They could just do things with ease, brilliant things. But everything that I've ever done in my life has been a struggle to do it right, or to try to complete it, in the right way. And so many things are dismissed as being, oh, cool. You wrote a kid's book. Oh, cool. You wrote a song. Oh, cool. Everything is just, well, naturally you did. Because we all can. Walk in a park. And you would want to say, you would want to show that it's super hard. I mean, just take even this attempt at episode 0. I mean, and I can't tell you the dread of pressing stop, uploading it, and there be nothing there, or a weak signal, and you can barely hear it, or I've been looking at the wrong spot on the camera, or I got a booger or something the whole time, or I overwhelmingly look fat and it drives me nuts. I don't know, whatever. A lot of dread. But for my brother, for myself, I am going to start recording these every week. For good or for bad. Hopefully getting better. Hopefully reaching somebody. But the truth is, I can't care. Because I'll get inside my head and I'll screw it up and I won't want to do it anymore. Or it'll affect how I talk or what I talk about. So I don't really care. I appreciate if you did listen. I appreciate if you watched. I know I have 0 subscribers in honor of episode 0. And I have 0 listeners in honor of episode 0. So we can only go up from here. We can only go up from here. There's a liberty in that. That I don't... who cares? It's not a... there's no consequence to putting out a crappy show and nobody's watching, nobody's listening. You're just learning. So, all right. Anyway, look for Lostlikemike for free on Apple Podcasts and probably Spotify, Stitcher, a few others that I'm going to try to get uploaded to in the near future. Watch the episodes on YouTube. Do the things that are necessary to grow a podcast. Click likes and subscribes. And I promise to put out an episode every week, even when I'm not feeling good about it. When I'm feeling like I don't want to do it, I'm going to do it anyway. Especially once I figure out how to do it and put a little music at the beginning and at the end, and a title sequence and information. Subscribe here and it'll be over. We're going to get there. And if you only knew how hard it was for me, I'm sure so many of you are watching this and going, how hard is it, man? Just push this button and do this and post it and vámonos, let's go. Welcome to the struggle. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And I'll see you around. Good day.